Today, we're unpacking the hidden psychology of giving, the 4 powerful forces that shape how, when, and why we give.
Welcome to Wisdom and Wealth, where we talk about the human side of money. Join us as we dive beyond the numbers, unpacking the psychology of money to equip you with the tools you need to be wise in wealth.
I'm Brendan Frazier, Chief Behavioral Officer at RFG Advisory, and in a previous episode, episode 19, we spent some time talking about one of my favorite studies when it comes to money and happiness. The one where researchers went out and they found that spending money on someone else actually makes you happier than spending it on yourself. That's the power of giving. Giving doesn't just help others, it actually rewires your own brain for joy, connection, purpose, meaning, and happiness. But here's the twist. The same brain that rewards that generosity also has some glitches. We'll call them psychological shortcuts that can narrow your empathy, distort your perception of the impact that you're having, and quietly influence how you decide where and how much to actually give. And understanding these hidden forces is crucial when it comes to helping you become a more intentional giver. So let's take a look at these 4 forces. Force number 1 is what we'll call the Identifiable Victim Effect. Here's what that means and how it works. We're wired to care more about one specific person than we are a large group of people. So in one particular study, participants were shown 2 different things to look at, 2 appeals for their charity. On one hand, in one version, they saw and were told the story of Rokia, a 7-year-old girl in Mali who needed food and education. In the other version, they were given statistics, the millions of children in Africa that are starving. And when they looked at the results of this research, what they found is that people gave almost twice as much, almost double, when they saw Rokia's face and were made the appeal emotionally. Because our emotional brain feels compassion for stories, not statistics. That's why you see fundraisers, when they do it well, they try to show and emphasize faces rather than spreadsheets. Because when you give, you want to make it personal. You want to read a story. You want to see the face. You want to connect emotionally, because giving is most fulfilling when you feel the human behind the cause. Force number 2, the distance and time effect. We give most easily to people who feel close to us, both emotionally and geographically. That's why when your neighbor's house burns down, you instantly go and support their cause with their GoFundMe page. You help them clean up, you help them restore. But when you see that there was an earthquake across the world, you tend to absorb the information, look at it, read it, and then move on and go back to what you were already doing in life. And it's not because you don't care. It's because distance dulls emotion. Researchers call this psychological distance, and this distance doesn't just apply to miles and geography, it also applies to time. When the help that we're able to provide or receive feels delayed or distant into the future, it's harder for our brains to feel and appreciate the impact. Said differently, we feel less empathy towards another person's suffering in the future compared to their suffering in the present. We're wired to care more about contributing time and money to help someone in need today than we are to make the world a better place for our great-grandkids one day in the distant future. Don't just wait to give until it's close and urgent. Don't just wait to give until it's somebody that you know well that lives close and needs it immediately. We want to do our best to shrink the psychological distance by making giving more consistent, by making it a key part of your financial plan so that you give intentionally and consistently rather than reactively. Force number 3 is what we'll call scope insensitivity. What that means is we have an inability to emotionally grasp bigger numbers. Paul Slovic, a leading researcher, found that as the number of victims in a tragedy increases, our compassion actually decreases. And that's because it's hard to feel 10 times as concerned about a disease that affects 500,000 people as one that affects 50,000 people. That's why charities often highlight one story of an impact that they're making, even when they're serving thousands or even millions of people. They're fighting against your brain's emotional math problem. They're trying to speak to the emotional, not the rational part of the brain. Lastly, is a force that most people have never heard of. Force number 4 is proportion dominance. So imagine real quickly you have 2 options, 2 ways that you can give. Option 1 is that you can save 225 out of 300 lives by supporting a medical intervention. Option number 2 says you can support that same medical intervention and you'll save 230 out of 900 lives. 225 out of 300, 230 out of 900 lives. Most people, when given that choice, when given those options, will choose the first. They'll choose to save 225 out of 300, even though they know that it helps less people. Why is that? It's because we love ratios. It's not logical, but saving 225 out of 300 feels like we're making a bigger difference, feels like we're making a bigger impact. It's a bigger story of success than it is saving 230 out of 900. It feels like a smaller impact. Our brains prefer completeness over scale. This might make it tempting to turn away from some of the biggest problems because you feel that you won't have as much of an impact. So it's important to focus more on the size of the drop and not the size of the bucket. Focus more on the absolute impact that you're making rather than the relative impact. So instead of feeling like your $100 donation can't do much good in the grand scheme of world hunger, let's try reframing it. Reframe by asking how you can make that $100 do as much good as possible. Let's say you find a charity out there that can feed a child in Africa for $2. Let's reframe your $100 donation to say your giving is now feeding 50 kids in Africa. Those are the 4 forces, so let's stop for a second and put it all back together. Our hearts are generous. We're wired to give. We want to give, but our brains can get in the way. So let's recap. Here are the ways to give with both emotion and to be able to give more intentionally. Number 1, you want to feel it. Let your heart lead with a human story. Number 2, we want to widen it. Don't fall prey to psychological distance, but remember that distance, geographically and with time, doesn't change the worth and the impact of the giving that you're doing. Number 3 is quantify it. Don't let the numbers, as they get bigger, numb you in terms of the impact that you're making. Lastly, number 4 is assess it. Make sure you give in a way where your dollar can truly change lives. And here's one more layer, one more thing that you can go back and do right away. Just like you plan your finances, just like you have a financial plan, start implementing a giving plan. You have a savings rate in your financial plan. You have an investment plan. Let's start thinking about your giving plan. Maybe it's a giving rate, a percentage of your income that's earmarked for generosity, earmarked for charity. That'll make giving part of your financial identity and not just a seasonal decision. As always, if you have thoughts, if you have questions, if you want to discuss, reach out and contact your advisor. Until next time, stay wise and well.